The thing that I find so interesting about the Epstein files, but more specifically around images that are coming out, the people who are denying being at these places or not knowing anything. In the early 2000s is when I started working in the tech industry. And one of my many jobs I've had over the years is doing events, specifically like big trade shows and stuff like that. And anybody who has worked in that industry as long as I have, gone to big trade shows where big brands are trying to show off and, kind of jockey for who has the better booth or the better party or whatever. Back in the 90s and in the early 2000s, people would hire promotional models. We used to call them booth babes. And that is one of the earliest lessons that I learned, actually, when I was kind of starting to move up the chain, have more responsibility in my work. And I remember an agency that I was working with had hired some promotional staff to help us promote this party we were having. When my colleague and I showed up, another woman, we showed up to meet these people and train them or whatever. It was obvious to me what these girls were used to being hired for. And by the way, I got no beef with any of that, but I did have a problem with it when it came to hiring people that felt like it was on a very shady line. And yes, we can have fun and people can party and we were serving alcohol, but that was a line that I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. So I never did that again. Hired actors and all kinds of other people to help us, but never booth babes. And I am very fortunate because the company that I worked for, nobody pushed back on this. Nobody complained. And that's not our brand. We shouldn't be doing that. And then fast forward a handful of years, we got a whole bunch of new management staff that came from other big tech companies. We need to make a really badass party. And mind you, one thing I'm really good at is making a badass party, but I didn't own all of the activities. So sure enough, I'm in a foreign country at a trade show, and what do you know? Here comes some models. So I was sober, and perhaps that's partly why I was like, what the fuck is this? I grew up with a whole bunch of abusive assholes in my life, and I just knew there was something wrong and off about that. Now, none of those women that I ever worked with in those situations were underage, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they were not underage. And I'm like, again, no, I got no issue with those women. They were trying to make a living. My point is, every time I see thou doth protest too much, clutching your pearls, oh no, I would never go to an Epstein party. I never saw anything. Bullshit, you didn't.